I wanted to get into what Kapler had to say about Joey Bart yesterday with Willard and Dibbs, but we do have Matt Entz coming on, Trey Lance's college coach at North Dakota State, to talk a little Trey Lance and who he is as a person.
Well, B, you had asked me a question before I went off on a tangent on Rodon, and I want to ask you the question. Because I struggle with watching practice through the lens of social media. I don't know what's real, what's not. I don't know how excited I should be or shouldn't be. When I'm there, I feel like I have a better gauge on it, like because you get the context of who's out there. When you see all these videos circulating with Trey Lance, it's not a bad thing, obviously,
it's not a bad thing,
how excited does it get you?
It gets me excited because the highlights are excited. So what I do is I take it a step further. I text people who are out there.
Oh.
I'm like, hey, what really happened out there?
Sources.
That's what I do.
I like that.
Because you need context. I'm not a highlight guy. I like to know what's happening.
It's really hard to tell in these highlights, too.
It's hard to tell because you're zoomed out.
You don't even know who's
who. You don't know what's the completion percentage. How does Shanahan like it? From what I hear, Trey looked really good yesterday.
Really?
And we're going to hear from Brad Grant from SF Niners tomorrow about that. I heard Trey looked really good. I heard Brandon Ayuk looked really good.
What was it that looked good? His touch?
Footwork.
Okay.
He's getting better every day. The pocket presence. The touch. You see some of those highlights.
Well, the fourth down one.
Touch. The fourth down one looked really good.
For those that are just getting in their car, he had like fourth and 10? And I guess he scrambled to his right and then threw back across his body to Deebo Samuel over the middle of the field for a big-time play. And that was the one that got the crowd all fired up.
That was nice. Hey, here's Kittle on Trey Lance's touch yesterday at practice.
Actually, I think his touch has definitely gotten a lot better since he first got here. Like, I'm pretty sure one of my first 5-yard routes, he threw it at my head and tried to take my helmet off. Now he's got some nice touch to it. So, like I said, he's gotten so much better than when he first was here, and he's going to continue to improve.
Pardon me, that was George Kittle. Here's Shanahan on what he saw from Trey Lance.
I mean, good at times, bad at times. Kind of like all that is. When you drop back, you get in some third down situations. That's what you expect. Some of those 2 minutes, that's what you expect. I always want to do better, but it was about what I expected.
About what he expected.
I mean,
Shanahan has a lot of expectations. He considers Trey Lance to be his savior.
Does he? Like right away?
Absolutely. Well,
he's probably their long-term, that's what he's hoping. I mean, right? But, I don't know about if he thinks he's his savior for this year. Do you?
No, he's got to play well.
The touch thing by George Kittle, that was more interesting than the Shanahan sound, quite frankly.
No doubt.
Because the one area that I do think when we look at the great quarterbacks, what keeps them great for long periods of time is being able to fit that ball underneath and to also hit those checkdowns. And that's the one thing Kaepernick never, it really held him back. We knew he could make the big play down the field. He could never hit that guy on the little swing pass.
Yeah, no doubt. Here's what Trey Lance had to say about finding rhythm with his wide receivers.
Playing football, I mean, it's kind of throwing where the defense tells me to throw the ball more than I don't kind of just go back and pick a guy. But, yeah, absolutely. I mean, finding rhythm. Missed a big one with George and a big one with Deebo today. But, yeah, I mean, those are great things to go back and watch on tape and just talk through with those guys.
What I like about him is he loves to take accountability. He loves to discuss what he missed on film and what he needs to improve on. And that, to me, it says a lot about a young quarterback. It says that, hey, he does want to improve. Hey, he does want to make those throws. And he accepts nothing less than perfection. He wants to be perfect at his craft. And I like that about Trey.
Do you think that he gets more out of these scrimmages?
There's no doubt.
Than what he would if he played just hypothetically all 3 preseason games?
Absolutely. Here's what Kittle had to say about the joint practices.
Yeah.
When you do combined practices, especially I think both teams here are trying to get better. You didn't see a couple guys trying to go out of their way just to hit someone or start a fight, something like that. You have 2 teams that are trying to get better, and when you can compete kind of in this environment too, where you can slow it down, you can kind of talk about stuff, and there's not the bullets aren't flying, and I think it's really beneficial to both teams. And honestly, I think these 2 practices are more important than the game. Honestly, I mean, you're gonna you have a chance here to show out in front of a lot of people, coaching staff. They're going to see everything, all the scouts, everybody gets to see it. So, I mean, this is an opportunity for you. Who knows? Some of that might not make our team, might make a Viking, and some of that's a Viking might not make them, and we might pick them up just based on these practices. So this is huge for everybody.
Why are they not filming these things on YouTube and putting them on the 49er webpage?
You're running a lot of plays, a lot of actual game plays, and you're running smoke screens, and you're kind of game planning a little bit there. And so you don't want the film to get out quite yet. You don't want teams getting a head start like the Bears, right? The Bears are sitting down there, and it's the Niners and Vikings, so the Vikings are in the same division as the Chicago Bears. So if you're the Minnesota Vikings and you're the Niners who play the Bears in week 1, You don't want the Bears seeing none of this stuff.
Yeah, but a discerning person could go through the internet and find like a lot of different things from practice, from the fans and whatnot.
You can.
I know it's not perfect. It's not the all 22, but do you get where I'm going with this?
I do, but no, that's for the fans. I'm sure we all want to see it, but I get why the teams would enclose this information and say, no, this is G13 classified. Also, you have players who are on the fringe, right? And there may be some players teams are hiding. Niners may have a guy who's the number 53 man who's saying, you know what? We can't let anybody see this. We kind of want to hide them. What if we waive them and bring them back onto the practice squad? We can't let the Bears or the Vikings or the Rams see that stuff. So I get why teams don't show this footage from scrimmages. We would all love to see it. But you know what? There are fans there watching. But then you also see the offenses too. They got 2 other fields. Yeah. So some of the stuff is like, hey, we're going to just run the offense down here. We're not going to show the fans this stuff. So I get why they don't show this stuff.
I know we're heavily focused on Trey Lance, but the guy who I just keep going back to, they need to have a monster year this year. It's Javon Kinlaw. Like, they need something from Javon Kinlaw this year in terms of not living up to the number 13 overall pick, but just being a really good player for that defensive line. And I just saw a couple of highlights yesterday. Man, if he could show them anything, imagine how deep this D-line can end up being.
Well, I loved what I saw from Kinlaw at the end of his rookie year. He started to show himself, right? He started to show himself and show that he was worthy of being a first-round pick. He started to be dominant. And Baldy broke this down as well. He said, man, I'm seeing the flashes here. He's starting to pop on tape. Then the injuries start to derail you. Then you have to rehab your entire offseason. Then you come back after rehab. You can't get right. Then you're shut down for the season. This is the first offseason he's had in the NFL weight room.
That's a good point.
Remember, when he got drafted, it was a pandemic.
Yeah.
He wasn't allowed to come to the facility. Now he's been here. I remember when I saw him at Chase, and he's like, yo, I'm here all year. I bought a house. I'm down to Santa Clara in the weight room. I'm sending videos to John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan. I'm here. And you see it with his body. Just how much better does his body look?
Oh, well, that's the biggest takeaway that I had. Last year, he was gassed. You saw him. He was on one knee, just putting water all over his entire head and everything. He looked a little bigger. I mean, I hate doing the body thing with these pro athletes because all of those guys' bodies are better than any normal mere mortal that we meet throughout our normal day. But he does look significantly thinner in the midsection than he did last year.
He looks like
he looks more explosive.
Yeah, he looks like he's in absolute great shape. And if you could get anything from him, alongside Eric Armstead, alongside Nick Bosa, and you've got some guys
Drake
here.
Jackson?
Well, Drake Jackson, but there's another guy Bosa was talking about here who was making plays yesterday. Kamoko Toure.
Oh, yeah, Toure, number 53. So when you watch this guy, Steven, physically, Toure, he stands out, and you're like, oh, my God. Is that the Terminator? Like, you look at it, he's got huge guns in terms of the arms, and then he's just tall and big, right? Right, Steven? How big? You said it to me, I think, 3 different times. 53 is humongous.
Yeah, he's a monster. It's like you wanted a replacement for Arden Key as a big, lean edge rusher. Like, Toure could be that guy. I was hoping he could be that guy, and he showed out in that preseason week 1.
And you saw some of the highlights yesterday at the scrimmage, and so I was like, yo, it's Toure real, and we're going to hear from Brad tomorrow, Brad Graham, tomorrow about Toure, because I want to, can this guy contribute on his team? They just cut Robert Nkemdiche. We were talking about him, how he flashed in and out, baby. He was quick. He was gone. Didn't earn that paycheck. So Toure looked like, I was like, man, he blew up the screenplay. Then he chased it down after they let the play go on because they don't count sacks. They don't stop the play. So Toure's really intriguing, and it's another Chris Kosaric find.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And then I look at Samson Ebukam, and I don't know about like everyday impact or every play impact, but when you watch him at practice, clearly he's more of like the veteran type teaching the younger guys because he's very like hands-on with Drake Jackson. I've been really impressed with him. But don't sleep on Ebukam. I think there's some plays to be made for him as well on this defensive line. I'm watching these videos and it's hard for me to pluck away what's real and what's not. It's just really difficult.
Yeah, well, I tell you what I do. I'm keep hearing reports about Danny Gray,
which is a great sign.
And look, man, Danny Gray, I've been waiting for the Niners to have that consistent third down wide receiver. Kendrick Bourne showed flashes with that.
He didn't have the speed,
but he didn't have the speed that Danny Gray has.
Quickness, he was very good. He had a knack. Kendrick Bourne had a knack for getting open.
Everybody was hoping that Trent Taylor was that guy. Everybody was hoping Everett James Jr. was that guy.
Why is it when you bring up Trent Taylor, I get triggered?
Dante Pettis. I mean, you get triggered by a lot of things I say.
Bruce Ellington, Quentin Patton. I put them all in the same boat.
You've been triggered by a lot of things I've said this week. I'm surprised. Let's just not bring up number 10, all right?
It was a consideration.
Then we'll really get derailed here. But Danny Gray.
You went accountability, and I thought you were going down the Jimmy G never takes accountability rabbit hole, but neither here nor there.
Hey, look, man, tell me you hate Jimmy G without telling me you hate Jimmy G.
This was not my opinion.
But Danny Gray, I'm really excited about him, man. Now, it's a tough ass rookie to have a major impact on the wide receiver position, especially under Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan's hard on these wide receivers, but it does feel like that.
Kyle's not alone in that.
No, he's not.
You look at Tom Brady, who's everyone agrees greatest quarterback of all time. He is so hard on young receivers.
Did you hear what Aaron Rodgers did?
Oh, he just threw the kid under the bus. I never even heard of the kid.
He cursed out all his young wide receivers, and then the next day he's waiting in the quarterback room as the receivers trickle in, and he's like, and he gave it to him again. Like Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be wild up there in Green Bay.
I actually was listening to a couple of different podcasts, and they were talking about what LaFleur inherited and then what Shanahan inherited. And if you look at like the playmakers on the Green Bay Packers, even though they have one of the great quarterbacks of all time, they really haven't developed under LaFleur any great playmakers. He inherited a lot of great playmakers. You contrast that with Shanahan. Ayuk feels like he's emerging. Debo is obviously a star. Kittle's a star. Elijah Mitchell was emerging last year. It feels like Shanahan has a more knack for finding playmakers.
He does.
Whereas LaFleur, great play caller, he's kind of inherited those players. So we'll see if he can develop those guys.
And it feels like he's clicking with Trey Lance. Trey Lance is clicking with Danny Gray. We saw that in the first preseason game. We're seeing that in practice.
Absolutely.
He's also clicking with Brandon Ayuk. And if Trey Lance could get on the same page with Deebo Samuel, look out with this offense. Let's talk to Trey Lance's college coach out of North Dakota State, Matt Entz. He's been a coach up there in North Dakota State since 2019. He's been up there in that program since 2014. This is a powerhouse. And Matt Entz, his record right now, 37-4. They are the Alabama of the FCS. And Matt, Coach, I'm going to call you Coach. Coach, good morning. Thanks for joining the Morning Russell, Bonte Hill, and Joe Shasky the Butcher. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate you guys having me on this morning.
Oh, we appreciate you spending the time with us because, look, we've been in love with Trey Lance since the pre-draft process. We're trying to figure out who's going to replace Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, and you got all these great quarterbacks and Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones and Zach Wilson. You have Justin Fields, and we threw on the tape of North Dakota State and saw Trey Lance throw a deep bomb against Youngstown State. I said, oh, my God, who is this guy? So tell us a little bit about Trey Lance. Why is he so prepared to run an NFL offense coming out of your program?
Well, I'd like to think some of it has to do with a little bit of the preparation that he's had here. And again, we only had him for really 2 full years, and he grew immensely while he was here. He got an opportunity to learn from Easton Stick, who's now with the San Diego Chargers. And one of the things that, and I'm sure it's still the same today, is Trey is an unbelievable prepare. He's going to dive into the film. He's going to dive into the game plan and have great understanding of what's going on. And he was like that for us, since day one. And then the other thing, I think he's got great maturity, which allows him to handle some of those unique situations, those pressure-packed moments where he can continue to flourish. And I think you're seeing that right now. He's growing every day. He continues to get better. I haven't had a chance to visit with him a lot this fall, just text messages here and there, just wishing him the best of luck. And I'm sure he's concerned about getting the 49ers to play as well as they possibly can.
Coach, I want to ask you about the competition level. This is something that kind of drives me crazy because great talent in any industry can come from all different backgrounds. And if you're great, you're great. It doesn't matter where you came from or who you went up against. You can level up. When you hear people dilute Trey Lance's success or dilute your program or say, hey, it's only, Division II or FCS, what's your counter to that?
Well, guys, through the process, and I'm referring when I say process, I'm talking about the evaluation process of Trey by the NFL GMs or scouts or position coaches. That was one of the comments that we routinely heard is, Matt, Coach, can you expand on the competition level? And my comeback was, guys, I can't control what the other teams look like, but I'll tell you what, the competition level that he faced or the level of competition he faced in our program, that's where he developed. we feel like we have a pretty balanced program here. We have an explosive offense. We have a really good defense. I mean, those two things are going to allow you to play at a high level and to win games. You just look at the class that he was drafted in. We had an offensive lineman drafted in the second round. We had a linebacker that was drafted, in one of the middle rounds, and we've had 8 kids drafted in the last 3 years. And so I kind of flipped it on him and said, it's all the guys he saw in spring through fall camp. Those are the guys that help develop him. It's not what happens on Saturday. It goes back to the process, not the results.
Head coach of North Dakota State, Matt Entz, on the morning roast on 95.7 The Game. Coach Trey in North Dakota State, of course, he's won 2 national championships. He's got a career record of 37-4, and that's a great point, Coach. You've had a lot of talent coming out of that program going into the NFL, not including Carson Wentz, who was the number 2 overall pick way back when. So I want to ask you about the arm fatigue deal, because everybody made a big deal about arm fatigue. And when I see Trey, I see a rocket arm. I see a guy who can make all the throws. What was your thoughts when this arm fatigue story started circulating there? It felt like people were just bored, Coach.
Well, there's something to be said about that comment, that comment, just being bored or looking for something to spice up maybe a storyline or something. It's never been anything that we ever had to deal with here at NDSU when we had Trey. And believe me, his first year, he kind of got shared between scout team and working under Easton Stick back in 2018. So it's something that's never reared its head when he was playing in the green and yellow. And I highly doubt that it was much of an issue. Maybe someone wanted to create it a bigger issue than it was. But like I said, Trey's a true professional, and he's going to take care of his arm. He's going to take care of his body the best way he knows how. And I know he's working with a number of people, and so I highly doubt that arm care and or arm fatigue was much of an issue.
Coach, obviously we all believe that adversity toughens you up and makes you better, and you get the true sign of someone when they falter a little. When you go undefeated and you're one of the best players at your level, it's hard to see the adversity on the surface. Take me through a moment where Trey did struggle. What did he do to overcome that, and then what was he like after that?
Well, I think you could go back to the year that he played for us, the 2019 season. I want to say it was quarterfinals of the playoffs, and I think we had an opponent that we played that we're very familiar with, and I think we ended up winning the game like 9-3. We kicked 3 field goals, and of course, what's wrong with the offense now? What's wrong with the quarterback play? We can't run the ball. I mean, all the negatives come out. We still won, though, and we didn't want to talk about that piece. And then all of a sudden you turn around in the following week in the semifinals. I think we in the semifinals, we hang 45 or 50 points on an opponent, and you saw just another level of focus, another level of preparation on the Trey, and another level of the maturation process. He didn't even though we won, didn't like how we prepared, maybe how we played the previous week. Well, how can I personally help this team continue to grow and thrive?
Now, Coach, and we're talking to Coach Matt Entz, North Dakota State, Coach Trey Lance at North Dakota State, 37-4 record as a head coach, been with that program since 2014. It is interesting to me to see him develop as a quarterback, what we're seeing, the highlights in the joint practices against Minnesota, what we saw last season. This guy ran, the wing tee in high school? Like, I played against a high school team that ran the wing tee. You don't pass the ball at all. So what was your concern when you guys brought him into North Dakota State coming from that offense?
Well, we didn't have much of a concern because we were fortunate. We had him here at camp a couple of times early in the summer, and we were able to get eyes on him. We were able to have our quarterback coach, our offensive coordinator, all those guys get to be around him for a couple of days and really pour into him, and vice versa. We saw the arm strength. We saw we were able to sit down and see hear the intelligence, the understanding of offense, the understanding of defensive looks, defensive coverages. Coach Bauman down at Marshall High School did a tremendous job with Trey through his 4 years of high school, and that just continued to ascend as he was here at NDSU. And I think our staff, we pride ourselves on doing a great job of the evaluation piece and maybe finding kids that may not be ready-made players right now, but need a year, need some development in the meeting room, in the weight room, wherever it might be. their best years are ahead of them, and he was definitely one that we were able to get on board, and he had a tremendous career for us.
You hear from time to time, like when Kaepernick was drafted, Harbaugh said, I went back, I talked to his Nevada coach, and I tried to run some of the plays that he ran there and kind of throw those wrinkles into our offense. Have you talked to Shanahan since the draft process? Have you guys had any kind of conversations back and forth?
I haven't. I know some of our offensive staff has had some conversations just with some things from a schematic standpoint. I think, you guys know, there is no original ideas in football. You're borrowing, you're stealing, you're trying to tweak things. Maybe something that you saw on Sunday, something that you've seen in another game somewhere. And like I said, I think there's some shared thoughts and things as far as the development piece goes. But I'm excited to see Trey in the Shanahan offense. I think that's an offense that's going to fit his his skill set. He has a ton of tools. You want him in some 5-step pass game, he can be effective. You want to utilize him in the run game. He's going to create a unique challenge for some defenses because he has great speed, great size, and if you're going to play him in single high defense, you're going to run out of bodies eventually on that quarterback run game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen him run over a couple people on the North Dakota film. What about his delivery? Have you seen his delivery? Every coach has their own little small mechanical things that you want to clean up. What have you seen in terms of change in his mechanics of how he throws?
Well, I think one of the things when he was here, one of our big emphasis were just to get long in the delivery, and which again, the faster level of football you're going to play at, the quicker we want to get that thing out, and so I think you've seen his ability to continue to grow at the NFL level, and just delivering the ball, just faster out of the pocket, more urgency getting in his drops, and so I think with the elevated level of play, you got to continue to practice and play at a faster level because you're playing against some of the best athletes in the world.
Coach, we're talking to Coach Matt Entz, North Dakota State, and you know what? A lot of talk when he came out in the draft and he got drafted by the 49ers was that, he's got great legs. He's a running quarterback. And from what we've seen so far in his career, I feel like he's more of a pocket quarterback where, he'll run when he has to. Mm-hmm. Do you see the same thing, Coach?
I do. I mean, he's always been able to make all the throws. Just within what we do offensively, we were able to take advantage of his legs as well. And he became a two-headed monster for us, a guy who could step back and he could throw those 9 balls, or a guy we could utilize in the quarterback run game equally effective and really stress teams. And I'm sure there'll be a moment during the year where they're going to do the same thing at San Francisco, where they're going to take advantage of his ability to extend plays, move the pocket, and or quarterback run game.
Real quick, Shaska, I was going to ask just about the pre-draft process, and when Shanahan and John Lynch and the 49ers brass were coming up there, when did you know they really fell in love with Trey Lance?
Well, when I think the first indication was the volume of 49er people that were here for our pro day.
Was Mike Shanahan there?
Yes, Coach Shanahan, John Lynch, and again, those guys having conversation not only with numerous people that are part of our program, strength staff, academic people, trying to get talking to our offensive staff, myself included. That's when you knew, just the deeper the questions become, the more interest you anticipate that this program or this organization has in this young man.
Yeah. Coach, I think in the Bay Area bubble, we don't, North Dakota State, most people have never even been to North Dakota or met anyone from there. I'm just being honest, and so they kind of thumb their nose down at the program because it's not one that they're accustomed to. But I look at Carson Wentz being the number 2 overall pick, and you referenced Easton Stick. I mean, these are larger-than-life guys on your campus, okay? And we're talking about Trey now being the successor to Jimmy Garoppolo. What was it like for that transition? Just give our audience an idea of how big of a personality Carson or Easton Stick was and the shadow that they cast that he had to overcome to be the guy at North Dakota State.
Well, you guys, the thing you're going to be surprised about is Carson did an unbelievable job of mentoring and modeling what it looked like to be a quarterback at North Dakota State for Easton Stick. And Easton Stick passed that on to to Trey, and Trey passed it on to our current quarterback, Cam Miller, right now, who had won a national championship last year as a freshman, going into a sophomore year, feeling very confident. And I think the thing that I get most excited about, and I think is most unique, is the humble approach that all three of these young men took while they were here. This isn't a program that spotlights a lot of individuals, but we do spotlight just the program itself and the success we've had, and how we play football. We feel like we play at a high level. We feel like offensively we mimic a lot what they do in the NFL. I think that helps our quarterbacks transition. They're responsible for checking plays at the line of scrimmage, protections. They have a lot of input on game planning, and he learned from a couple really good ones, and it's exciting to see how those guys thrive together. They continue to connect. That brotherhood that they created here at NDSU is still alive and well.
Well, Coach, I think our audience, we're just totally excited about Trey Lance, and you just poured gasoline on the fire, man. We can't wait to see number 5 week 1 against Chicago. We're all excited about his prospect as a future quarterback of the 49ers. Thanks so much for the time, and best of luck to you this season.
We'll be rooting for you guys.
Yep.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me on, and you guys continue to cheer on Trey, and I wish nothing but the best for the 49ers.
Absolutely, Coach. North Dakota State head coach Matt Entz on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game.